And good morning. It is March 9th. Welcome to another episode of Like It or Leave It. Today we're going to be talking about what is truly the best skill to have in any sport, especially basketball, and who the MVP actually is. Hope everyone's having a good morning out there. So, I've watched a couple now, actually, of the Pelicans games since they got DeMarcus Cousins. And I keep thinking to myself, this should work. The team around them's not so great, but this season more so based on how well do they play together. And then I started thinking about it. I don't think this experiment is going to work. And I don't think it's going to work whatsoever. You've got the best center in the league, the best power forward in the league. Problem is, though, with Anthony Davis, is you have the new version of Troy Tulowitzki, which is you have a guy who is clearly better than everybody else at his position, but you've only got him for X amount of games. Remember when Troy Tulowitzki was considered the best shortstop in baseball, the question and argument became, well, what's better, 120 games of Troy Tulowitzki or 160 games of anybody else? He was that great that not even playing full time, he still put up better numbers, had better production, and was more impactful than anybody else in the sport. Could have made the case 4 or 5 years ago, he was the number one player in baseball. Between him, Matt Kemp, Albert Pujols. I got some numbers here I want to throw out. 2009, Troy Tulowitzki batted .297, hit 32 home runs, played in 151 games. The Rockies went 92-70. Got the wild card. Okay, very good. In 2010, he batted .315, 27 home runs, played 122 games. They went 83-79. Winning record, no playoffs. In 2011, batted .302, 30 home runs, played 143 games. They went 73-89. That year was more so of a Carlos Gonzalez being hurt and other guys being hurt around him. 2013, hit .312, 25 home runs, only 126 games. They went 74-88. Notice a pattern. He's there. He's playing. The team does better. The players around him do better. He's not there. The team suffers. And you don't win. Anthony Davis. The last 4 years, this is the 4 years that he's been a Pelican, so excluding his rookie year where they were still the Hornets. 20.8 points per game, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, played 67 games, 34-48. Next year, 24.5 points a game, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 45-37, played 78 games. New Orleans made the playoffs. Next year, 24-10-2, plays in 61 games. They go 30-52. This year, 28-12, 2 blocks, 25-40. Availability is the best ability. If you're only there for 75% of the games, 80% of the games, your team is going to do worse, you might still do great. Like Troy Tulowitzki always put up his numbers, but the Rockies weren't making the playoffs. They weren't making championship runs. The team wasn't doing well. Anthony Davis, he can put up 28 and 11 probably every season. But if you only get him for 55 to 60 games, you can't rely on that. And then you put him next to DeMarcus Cousins, who doesn't have an injury history, but is the most ejected player in the league. He's got 100-some technicals, 30-something ejections in 6 years. He's missing 5 to 6 games a year just because he's getting kicked out. So you're telling me my best player is injury prone. My second best player has a mouth and gets himself kicked out of games. How am I supposed to have any kind of consistency as a coach? How am I supposed to have any kind of consistency as a team? They keep talking about, you can always have one or the other on the court at all times during the game. Am I going to have them for every game? Should it work? Yes. Will it work? No. The same way with Troy Tulowitzki and Carlos Gonzalez, could not keep both on the field, could not keep any kind of consistency, could not keep any kind of sustained success. All right. Big topic wanted to get into is who is the MVP? And I'm more so going to disqualify people than I am going to validate someone. Because there's a bunch of guys having great seasons. There's a bunch of teams that are doing far better based on those seasons, that where you want to get into this argument of, was it most valuable player? Is it best player? I don't think you give it just to the best player every year. Even though the best player probably deserves it. Michael Jordan probably deserved the MVP every year that he played. Kobe probably deserved the MVP every year that he was in his prime. Shaq probably deserved the MVP almost every year that he was in his prime. But they don't always get it. The best player does not always have the best season. So, in any job, or I'm going to talk specific job, I'm going to talk a job that I used to have, which is selling accounts and trying to bring money in for a business. So being a sales representative. The most important thing I was ever told is, while you're out doing the work, you cannot lose accounts. It is far more productive to be the guy who brings in 4 accounts a month and doesn't lose one than to be the guy who even brings in 8 accounts and loses 2. Losing accounts and losing business is less money. Well, what's the equivalent to that in basketball? That would be the turnover. Every possession you've got to look at as a different account. There's X amount of possessions during a game, and that's what makes up your entire game or makes up your entire business. But when you're simply losing set accounts throughout the game, you're losing that business. Not losing the entire business. Your entire business might still do well. So, with that, I think high turnover counts should almost disqualify you from being the most valuable player. Because how can you be valuable if 4 or 5 times a game you're just throwing the ball away? That's 8 to 10 points, whether you're assisting on it, scoring yourself, that are just gone. So, when you've got Russell Westbrook and James Harden, both are great players. I'm not denying that. Both are superstars in their own right. Both are playing with guys who are less talented than them. So they've got to play as well as they can just to even get to this point. And what James Harden is doing with Mike D'Antoni, I think is super impressive. But when you have two guys who are about to set the NBA record in turnovers, and I mean not just set them, they're about to break them and break it by a large margin, I have trouble saying you are the most valuable player if you are losing just as much as you are helping. Let's look at LeBron and Kawhi Leonard. Well, LeBron averages 4.2 turnovers. And you could say, well, he's got the ball in his hands. Well, so does Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Kawhi Leonard, on the other hand, is averaging only two turnovers a game. I know consistently that guy's going out, that guy's getting business, that guy's getting stuff done. He's not losing accounts. He's not losing the ball. It is productive on a more consistent basis. And the stat everyone likes to throw out is the plus minus of players, the how good is that player when he's on the court, when he's off the court, the plus minus of the team. And let me say, the how good they are or how good the team does when they're on the court or when they're off the court is one of the worst stats of all time. I think it's just a joke. It truly makes no sense. It just sounds nice to say. Like, Kawhi Leonard, the Spurs, with him and with him not on the court, is a small difference. It's a 1-point difference in their defense. LeBron, they love to say that, it's 12 points that the Cavs are worse with him off the court than on the court. That's not him. That is simply the byproduct of how that team is put together. James Harden's got a really high one too. So does Russell Westbrook. Because those teams only have one thing that they can do, which is give the ball to LeBron, give the ball to James Harden, give the ball to Westbrook, and they are surrounded by shooters and guys who are simply relying on them, guys who can't get their own shot. So, of course, when you build your team like that, your team's not going to do really well when you're off the court. Also, have you ever noticed when the Spurs, they don't let up on teams. They can be up 15, 20 points in a game. Kawhi Leonard goes out, rests the final 7-8 minutes of the fourth quarter, and their backups still come in, and they're still looking to get theirs. LeBron leaves the game, 7-8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. His team's got a 15, 20-point lead. The Cavs bench really, they don't play with that same enthusiasm, and the score starts to the gap of the score starts to shrink. That's going to affect your on the court, off the court. So that is a joke. Same with plus minus. You know who the plus minus leaders are? 1 through 10 is Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, LeBron, Andre Iguodala, Rudy Gobert, Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, Zaza Pachulia. 5 of the top 10 all play on one team. Correction, 6 of the top 10 all play on one team. Plus minus is all a factor of who you play with. When are you playing? Can it have an impact? I think yes. It's impactful to me when I see like a Rudy Gobert be on the top 10, when I see Chris Paul be on the top 10, because what they do for their teams. Rudy Gobert is the defensive anchor for the Utah Jazz. Chris Paul is the offensive table setter for the Clippers and one of the last true point guards we have left. Every stat has a place. Every stat has a purpose. But it's the fact so many people, and especially so many talking heads, love to just sit there and grab this stat and say, that's why he's the MVP. They'll grab this stat and say, that's why he's the MVP. No one stat makes you the MVP. And if I had to give, like I said, I'm not here to give an endorsement. I'm simply here to give, I don't want to say detractors because they're having great seasons, and I'm not here to rip anyone. But you do not, I just have trouble giving the MVP to two guys who are going to shatter horrific records in Westbrook and Harden's case with turnovers. LeBron's averaging his second most turnovers in his career. Now I've got a guy like Kawhi Leonard who not only does well in plus minus, who not only does well in turnovers per game, not only does well in fourth quarter scoring, but it's one All-Star versus 3 on the Cavs. I get Kevin Love's been hurt. I get J.R. Smith's been hurt. But LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, tell me what player on the Spurs is even close to Kyrie Irving. Kawhi Leonard is doing this as close to by yourself as you can. I'm not a big LaMarcus Aldridge fan. I know he's a good player. But he's nowhere even close to the kind of player Kyrie Irving is right now. So, last thing I want to talk about, and I've already mentioned something kind of similar to this before, but I just want to go back to this. Greatness is definitive. It is not accumulative. You are not great just because I played 15, 16 years in a sport and I was just an above average player for those 15, 16 years. So by the time my career is done, my stats show that I'm one of the top 10 of this ever. I'm one of the top 10 scorers ever. I'm one of the top 10 hitters ever. I bring this up because there's this argument right now with where does Dirk Nowitzki rank in terms of all-time great players. Even if, and I'm not going to rank him all time, but simply if you just rank him among power forwards, how many power forwards would you actually rank him above? I wouldn't rank him above Kevin Garnett. I would not rank him above Elgin Baylor. I would not obviously rank him above Tim Duncan. He is a great player, but when you combine the fact of he's going to probably finish his career at just about 20 points a game, and he'll play 20 seasons, the 30,000 points loses a whole lot of luster. If I get 150 hits a season, I'm an average player. But if I played 20 years, now I got 3,000 hits. 3,000 hits, 30,000 points. Is Dirk Nowitzki a Hall of Famer? Yes. But he's not one of the all-time greats. He'd have to be somewhere between 40 to 50 in my book personally. But he's now a top 10, top 15, top 20 player because he's got 30,000 points is ridiculous. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you want to let me know if there's something you want me to talk about. And we will end on that cough. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Did you have more that you wanted to say on that?
No, I couldn't find, because I was doing it last night, and I was trying to think of, because I could not find like an actual